that kind of look like a 0-0?
Oh, 0-0. No, I can't really see it. Now that you said it, I can, but I love that we're live right now. I'll cut this out, or we could just run with this, dude, and just have this be the intro. People's mind will be blown, but it's a Superlatives episode, baby. Let's go.
It's Superlatives episode. It's our final record predictions. Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host Nick Flato in my Mauna Kea hat, which Nick made fun of me for. But what he doesn't know is having a bad hair day, Nick. It's been way too long since I got a haircut, but I don't have time to get a haircut. It's football season. And what I was talking to Nick about before the episode is I tried to use some magnets on my fridge to create a 0 and a 0, if you can see it, underneath the Giants magnet, in between the Badgers magnet. That's supposed to be the Giants record, which will be updated in season as we move through this thing. I brought this up on FFT, and it was laughed at.
Yeah, it's terrible because you have a white fridge and you used white magnets and you're at a distance to where people are not going to be able to discern what the hell that is. To me,
I Sharpied those magnets in.
Oh
so there's some Sharpie marks on there. But Nick, welcome back to the show. And I got one question for you. What would be, because we're now less than 24 hours or about a little over 24 hours away, what would be your best case scenario for the Eagles-Cowboys week 1 game? Like, what's the best case scenario? Non-injuries. We're not going there.
I'm glad that you specified. Not that I would ever want that. And I don't obviously, but I'll say this, the best case scenario, I think, because the Eagles, in my understanding of this division right now, will win this division more than likely. I think the best case scenario is a rough and tough game where the Philadelphia Eagles come out on top and the Dallas Cowboys, I don't know if I want them to get slightly embarrassed because something like I want it to be somewhat competitive and I want it to be a heartbreaking loss for the Dallas Cowboys. And they got to sit on that loss for a few days since they have an extra week to prepare for the New York Giants at home in week 2. So I want it to be a tough loss for Dallas than they have to stew on for a little bit. And hopefully it affects their week 2 planning.
Yeah, I was thinking about this because the Giants play the Cowboys in Dallas in week 2. And for me, it's overtime game. First of all, I want that game grinding out as many snaps as possible for the Cowboys. And like you said, kind of a close game that the Cowboys end up losing. Though, a moral victory, it can be viewed as to them because the Eagles are the Super Bowl champions. But to us, it's their 0-1. They played a lot of snaps, and the Giants get to take them on a little bit injured. But today what we're doing, or not injured, a little bit, let's use the word injured. Fatigued. But today we are doing some final fun superlatives about the Giants 2025 season. And we are doing, and I put them as some award winners, and we are doing predictions for the final record. So Nick, let's start with you want to start with the fun ones or do you want to go for the serious ones?
Yeah, let's lay it down. Nice little fun foundation. All right, so we could start with this. Who is most likely to break the sound barrier on a slant?
I'm going actually Jalen Hyatt here. Malik Neighbors is the obvious call.
The most likely. Oh my gosh, dude.
Sometimes you don't go with the obvious pick. Sometimes you go with the former Blitnikoff winner. What was his speed? What was his speed?
It wasn't like 4.2. It was
only 4.4 flat.
Yeah, I think it was either 4.39 or 4.4 flat.
But he's added 10 pounds of muscle. Hopefully he's shaking some of those off this offseason because I like him better without the weight. But yeah, it's mostly a joke. It's going to be Neighbors.
Yes. And then most likely to develop their own gravitational pull.
That's obviously only one person. Dexter Lawrence, the biggest man on earth.
The biggest man on earth. So basically this is what we're doing here. We're just going to say all the superlatives pertaining to the 2025 New York Giants. And remember, after every all-22 game, Dan and I, we review the film extensively for hours, take copious amounts of notes, and then we come up with fun superlatives and apt superlatives after each game based on the film analysis that Dan and I come up with. So that's something to look forward to after our live reaction show. Every Monday, we come out with the all-22 review shows for both the offense and the defense.
Yep, and so you'll get in that what we take away from film, including grades for the offensive line on a 1 to 10 scale, which we love doing because it's very important to track over time and how the film actually says. We don't buy into the PFF grades. We have our own grades. And then also fun things like defensive MVP, unheralded player on film, things like that. Some of the stuff we'll go over today, by the way. Before we do that, Nick, I did need to shout my own self out very quickly, very briefly. shot my personal best record the other day at Francis Byrne after we recorded that show. I consider you now my good luck charm because I shot an 84 with a 39 on the back. It was the most it was electric. It felt electric. And I was reminded, Nick, why there is no better feeling. There's no more natural, like it was the best high I've ever had. And trust me, I've tried some things, some really good things. And it was the best high I've ever experienced, going 39 on the back at Byrne. I had 6 pars and 1 birdie on my back 9 and 2 doubles. Just an insane 39 back. I finished the day 4 pars and a birdie. And that final 18 birdie, it's a par 5. Dropped a drive out there. It was like 275 out after the drive, middle of the fairway. Hit an iron to about 103. Dropped a 50 degree, 6 feet from the hole. Plopped, no rollout, like minimal rollout. 6 feet, straight putt. Banged it home for the birdie. And my new personal record, 84 at Francis Byrne. So I had to just talk about that because of this. Sorry to waste that 25 seconds for you who don't like that on this show. I know some haters or just people who want to hear us talk about football. But I have to believe, Nick, that me dropping my PR, my personal record, 84 at Francis Byrne, is a sign of good things to come for the New York Football Giants. How else can I interpret this?
I don't know. It's very narcissistic of you to think that your golf game correlates to the New York Football Giants. I'll say that much. But I want to take it for the podcast, though. I want to take it for the podcast, though. So
very good point. But let me say this. If the Giants do have a great season, I will now be crediting myself for this.
Okay, you could take the credit though. You know, we all live in our own universe. Let's freaking own that.
There are a few people who wanted the golf update, so I'll give it to them. So just very excited, Nick. I've been on a high since that moment, and I feel like we'll ride that into the Giants season. I really do believe it could lead to this week 1 victory and the upset over the Commanders that I believe the Giants will create and will do. So let's get into some of the stuff that will make that happen. And let's start with offensive MVP for the season. Are there any surprises here? But I think there's two strong candidates.
Offensive MVP, look, for me, I'm just going to go with the one that I believe. Now, I think the 2 candidates are Andrew Thomas and Malik Neighbors. Those are my 2, but I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors because he is the catalyst. He is the fulcrum of this offense, not just from he's your most talented offensive player. He's going to see the most targets. He's going to be the most involved in the game plan, but it's also every defense, as we used to say this about Saquon Barkley, every defense is going, okay, Giants offense, what do we have to worry about? Boom. We have to worry about Malik Neighbors. That's the number 1 guy we have to worry about. This could affect Theo Johnson. This could affect Wan'Dale Robinson and all their stat lines because they're going to see favorable coverage if they're aligned away from Malik Neighbors, who could be cloud covered, who could be double teamed, who is going to be the primary focal point. And so for me, it's an easy Malik Neighbors.
I interpret offensive MVP, Nick, very literally. Most valuable player to the team. And generally speaking, an elite left tackle to me is more valuable than an elite wide receiver, but not necessarily based on what I saw last year with Brian Daboll. He really did design that offense around Malik Neighbors. If we watch some of those early games when they were actually decent on offense, it was just consistent looks for Malik Neighbors, really simplifying things a lot of the time for Jones. And it worked a little bit. It kind of worked. Besides the deep stuff, which was just so horrifically awful to watch, the other stuff worked. A lot of underneath, a lot of mesh, a lot of overs, a lot of different routes designed to create, what's the word for it? I'm looking for not dysfunction in the middle of the field, but to create like traffic in the middle of the field. Just simply create traffic that would create then the space for Neighbors. I think that's going to continue this year, and that's what makes him the most valuable player. So I will give it to Malik Neighbors as well.
Especially when you're going over the middle of the field. Look, Russell Wilson isn't the type of quarterback who hyper targets the middle of the field, but on these short little mesh concepts, things like that against man coverage, he can hit those. But with Malik Neighbors, he's so fluid. And we saw this in the red zone all throughout training camp. He is such a fluid player that you can stem inside, act as if you're going to the inside, and then just pivot outward. And if it is a one-on-one matchup to the outside, Malik Neighbors is so fluid to win on those whip pivot routes, as is a player like Wan'Dale Robinson. So yeah, I remain very optimistic that Malik Neighbors, if healthy, knock on wood, he will be the offensive MVP for the New York Giants. But wouldn't it be great if it was like Jaxson Dart? Could you imagine?
Like Jaxson Dart, where this podcast is taking off to the moon, and we are just having the life. Like Dart plays this year and is amazing. All the things we said last year about being a Commanders fan and Jaden Daniels just apply to us. And you know how we feel about that when you find that quarterback. We think it makes all the difference. So defensive MVP for you.
Defensive MVP, I'm going to go with I still think it's going to be Dexter Lawrence. And I love the fact that there are several names just going through my mind right now. I thought about Brian Burns. I thought about Abdul Carter. I still think it's going to be Dexter Lawrence. And it's also because the Giants are kind of weak next to Dexter Lawrence. Look, Raheem Nunez-Roches is DT2 on this team, according to the official depth chart. I think that's a solid gap specialist to have, but not an exciting pass rusher. And one of the reasons why these wide 9 formations for Shane Bowen are going to be so effective in third and second and long situations is because Dexter Lawrence is pushing the pocket.
True.
And you have 2 of the best high side rushers in the NFL. And I do not think that's being hyperbolic at all. I think Brian Burns and Abdul Carter are 2 of the arguably top 6 high side rushers specifically. Not saying they're 2 of the top edge rushers, but just their ability to win up the arc, dip that inside shoulder, corner through contact, and finish through the high side. And that's what the wide 9 alignment that Shane Bowen employs. That's what the wide 9 alignment that he employs learned through Jim Schwartz.
Yep.
It feasts off of players who can do that. And when you have somebody also pushing the pocket, then that makes it very difficult for the quarterback to step up and find room within that pocket. That pocket gets very narrow, gets very constrained, and Dexter Lawrence should feast on that while also being a dominant run defender. So for me, it's Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah, look, it's a tough call, but not really. Dexter Lawrence is the most dominant nose tackle in the NFL. I would personally argue, given my interpretation now of what wins and loses in the NFL, that he's actually the best defensive player in the NFL, according to me. And the reason I believe that is I honestly feel at this stage of the NFL, the most important player, the defense is like, I look at it like it's built inside out. Like plays start inside out. And you can, if you're a good quarterback, step up through exterior pressure, navigate the pocket. But when it's pushed right back up in your face, it becomes really difficult. You can sometimes slide and reset, but most of the time I see these quarterbacks escaping laterally. And when you start to escape laterally as a quarterback, unless you're Patrick Mahomes at that level, you're just done. The play is over. I see it over for Jones. I've seen it over for Jalen Hurts, who's one of the quote unquote better quarterbacks in the NFL. Like as he rolls right, it just cuts off half the field. And at that point, you need magic. You need to make magic individually as a quarterback.
Look, as a defense, you want the offense going east-west. You don't want them going north and south. You want to force them east-west and then have your guys take pursuit angles to rally and then tackle them.
Right.
When you have a player like Dexter Lawrence, look, we've watched so much film over the years, Dan. How many times have the Giants been vulnerable in the A-gaps since Dexter Lawrence has joined this team? No team runs up. It's very rarely. Last year might have been the most, and that's because of the defensive structure. And it was when Dexter Lawrence was not on the football field. But when the Giants sucked against the run in 2022 and in 2023, it was counter. They couldn't fit counter. And that was a referendum on their linebackers and their contained defenders and their edge rushers because they were running away from Leonard Williams and they were running away from Dexter Lawrence. Right.
Yeah, great point. And in addition to that, just stats on top of that, Dexter Lawrence has been double teamed more than 2x the amount of any interior defensive lineman. He also has more than 2 times the pressures of any nose tackle. So despite facing the worst situation by far, he's been the best by far, just to show the impact that he makes on a consistent basis.
With the nose tackle point too, Dan, it's not even 2 times. I think it's like an insane amount of times. Like I saw the stat.
Double team. Yeah.
No, not
I think it's 2x. Oh, the pressures.
No, the pressures, just from the nose tackle spot. So what we mean by nose tackles directly over the center, and I think they also may include the one shade. So typically these one shades, and one shade means they are on the shoulder of the center. So they're in the A gap. There's not a lot of interior pass rushers who thrive. A lot of these interior pass rushers who thrive when it comes to penetration, they're 3 techniques. They align on the outside shoulder of the offensive guard. A lot of them to the strength, could be to the weakness, depending on what kind of front that you're employing. But Dexter Lawrence is coming right through the A gap, and he is dominating, and he is forcing offense to try and get guard help to the center when he did align over the center. Now, the one thing I'll say, Shane Bowen doesn't necessarily use him in the same manner that Wink Martindale did. They're different type of fronts, right?
Don't love that.
Wink Martindale had a lot of 5-man fronts. There weren't as many. Now, down the stretch of the season without Dexter Lawrence, there was. Maybe they'll start to try to employ that a little bit more to get one-on-one matchups for Dexter Lawrence. But again, you're also winning with those high side rushers too, like on the outside. So there's a bunch of different ways Shane Bowen can employ this defense. There really is. And I'm excited to see how he does it, especially with Abdul Carter as an addition and Kayvon Thibodeau, because where are you going to use Kayvon? Say it's 3rd and 10, Dan. If it's 3rd and 10, you want to get all 3 of those edge rushers out there with Dexter Lawrence. So where are you going to align Kayvon? Where are you going to align Abdul Carter? Are you going to put Kayvon and Burns on the edge? You're going to put Abdul Carter at the second. There's just a lot of different things you can do, and it really depends on the matchup the Giants are going up against. If you're going up against a guy like Jaden Daniels, you might want to put Abdul Carter as a spy on the second level to monitor him. Because remember in week 2 last year, damn, it was like 2 or 3 3rd and longs that Jaden Daniels picked up with his legs. And I was going crazy. I was going berserk. I was like, spy this guy, dude. What the hell are you doing? But at the same time, do you really want to employ Abdul Carter in that manner? Because you know how effective he can be when he just pins his ears back and goes get him. But you know what? That's a good issue to have.
It's a good issue to have. And I think Abdul Carter, to me, is the one who can give him a run for his money. Dexter Lawrence is being the defensive MVP best player. Especially, it's a great point by you. I don't actually think Bowen's system is as good a fit for Lawrence as Wink's was. And maybe we'll see more of that this year with those 3 interior guys and then the 2 edge guys, because that's what Wink did at times. Still had them in like a wide 9 alignment. And it's funny, I saw that's exactly what Matt Patricia did to slow down and destroy Sark and Arch Manning this past weekend. It was that exact front. And it's very interesting. And the Giants didn't do it a lot with Shane Bowen. You talk about the end of the year when they had to, because they're just doing anything they can to stop the run. I'll be interested to see if they do more of that. I do want to get more snaps at Dexter Lawrence lined up right over the center, because if you have Mustafa types at center, or even like Garrett Bradbury, who was signed to the Patriots to help them, and we play the Patriots this year, I think Bradbury sucks. I think he's just all name. It was a bad signing by them, but I get it. They wanted a veteran to help, with Drake May, whatever. Just put Dex over Bradbury all game is kind of how I look at it, man, and just let him overwhelm his ass at the snap. And then everything's blown up from that point, in my opinion. And we saw that against Mustafa. We've seen that against a lot of different centers where the whole game plan for these teams have been blown up by having Dex over the center. So that's just something to think about. As far as Ken Carter, give him a run for his money, it would be based on the things you talked about, Nick, which is he's just doing so many different things for the defense that he is the most valuable player. He's dropping into coverage. He's spying the quarterback. He's winning around the edge. He's winning over the A gap and the B gap. At that point, will he have a case to be said, look, I am the best and most valuable player because I'm doing so many different things.
Exactly. And that would be a victory for us. And it's just, I'm so valuable to this team that offenses don't know how to prepare for me because I'm excelling at everything that Bowen is asking me to do.
Yep. And one final thing, there was a good back and forth with Art Stapleton and Justin Pugh, former Giants player, the other day about week 1. And, Art said maybe we should look to use Abdul Carter a little bit as a spy on Jaden Daniels. And Pugh was like, no, like as an offensive lineman, the one thing we always used to love is when they took their best pass rusher opposing teams and didn't just rush him every play. And I totally get what Pugh is saying, but I thought, Bobby Skinner did a good job of kind of countering it. And this is a tape I referenced a lot when we watched Carter, that Illinois game tape, when he was used as a spy, he was absolutely dominant in that role. And I love that tape. When I watched that tape, I was like, this is what we have for Jaden Daniels. Like, this is exact game plan I would use against Jaden Daniels.
I briefly saw that interaction, and it was just like, to me, it's much more like, look, I think you use it judiciously. You don't use it all the time. I think that's what Art was trying to say, is like you use it in the right moments to catch the offense off guard, especially if the offense is sliding protection towards Abdul Carter and they're putting focus on him. And then Abdul Carter drops off into simulated pressure and spies right away. Now protection's this way and you bring a blitz in the other way. You have somebody else come and now you just win from a mathematical standpoint. Like there's ways to do it through the chess match of a football game. And I just love how football coordinators is basically just a chess match. It's so cool, man.
Yeah, it really is. Watching that breakdown of Matt Patricia against Arch and Sark this past weekend was really, really interesting, and just a good example of like, and I think everyone's now, I'm out on Arch. Like there's so much out on Arch stuff. And it's like,
and that's going to stick all season now because it was week 1, dude. But like there will be those casual college football fans, but but he sucks. Even if he like goes out and just balls for the rest, just because he really struggled against Ohio State.
Yeah, he really struggled against Ohio State. Also put together probably the best throw on tape of the whole weekend, that touchdown throw on 3rd and 10. So it's like the high end moments are still there.
He had another one too up the sideline. The final 5 minutes that I was like, whoa.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. Like, it's, and then we're like, but you didn't say. I'm not even going to get into that. Like, it's like, I can't even touch on it because it just angers me to think about like comparisons with him and other players that don't have the physical. Like, are we not aware that physical tools are a big part of success at the NFL level? Josh Allen, across the board, like it's all physical. All our elite quarterbacks are physical tools players, besides, I guess, Burrow. But I would even consider him a physical tools player, the way he throws a ball.
I agree. Now, yeah, Burrow doesn't have the same type of tools. It's one of the
Right.
reasons why people can't quit on Trevor Lawrence. It's because the physical
For sure.
tools are so
I'm so
evident.
high
He
on
just
him with
hasn't.
Liam Cohen this year, bro.
Oh, same here, same here. But like those physical tools are so apparent on tape. They just haven't. He hasn't put it all together yet. You can blame the infrastructure. You can blame him, but the tools are there.
And it's like when you don't have the physical tools, like what are the success stories? And people are like, what about Drew Brees? It's like, do you watch Drew Brees throw a football at Purdue, dude? Drew Brees could rip a ball to all levels. Like that's not a best case scenario for a non-tools player. Like I'm not going to bring up names, but like some of these prospects that people like, but it's just, I'm not going to get into it right now.
Labor Day weekend always sneaks up on me. It's the unofficial end of summer. And for me, that means grilling. I love one last big cookout before football and tailgating season take over. And right now, Omaha Steaks sent me a box to try, and I've been enjoying it. They hooked me up with a variety of steaks, their filet mignon burgers, gourmet jumbo franks, boneless pork chops, air-chilled boneless chicken, and even caramel apple tartlets that just melt in your mouth. Delectable, delicious, and divine. The quality is unreal. Every steak is perfectly aged. The burgers are juicy. The franks are legit deli style. And those tartlets, dangerous. And the best part is the convenience. I can pull something out of the freezer and know it's going to be great without making a run to the store. Right now, Omaha Steaks is running their Labor Day sale. 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And our listeners get an extra $35 off with promo code BANTER at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com plus an extra $35 off with promo code BANTER. See site for details. And again, massive thanks to Omaha Steaks for sponsoring the podcast and also sending me that amazing box of meat. Thank you.
It is what it is. I don't know how we diverged to that. Let's get back on track and let's talk about, give me a surprise standout player on film or overall. It doesn't even have to be on film, just player. We go into the season, we end the season. It's like, this guy was awesome for us. He was a big reason why we won games, but going into the year, people didn't think that was going to happen.
So there were a few. So the Giants didn't win games last year. So let's X that when pertaining to this part of the conversation. There were a few players that I think constitute this last year. I think Tyler Nubin and Drew Phillips are both players who could have constituted this. Now I want to be I don't want to say them because A, I just brought them up, and B, I think a lot of Giant fans are on it. I want to be a little bit more. I want to give this to a player who is maybe not on the Giants or not on our radar as much. And I'm trying to think right now if there is a player that fits that. I would like it to be an offensive lineman, but I don't believe that to my bones. Like John Runyon is the name that is coming up right now for me, but I don't believe that in my bones. I really hope Cam Skattebo can be the Arizona State Cam Skattebo, especially down the stretch of the season once the Giants give him the go-ahead and start giving him a little bit more work. I do not think Tyrone Tracy Jr. is going to be phased out. At best, this will be like a 50-50 timeshare in the when we're evaluating this from the prism that Cam Skattebo is going to be this breakout player. Okay. I still don't think he'll seize the role per se, but I think Skattebo could be a difference maker in a bunch of different phases for the Giants, high leverage phases. Third down when it comes to being a pass catcher has to prove pass protection and also on the goal line. So Cam Skattebo is the name that's coming to me right now. What about you?
It's a good one. I think he still qualifies as a surprise standout because at this point, no one is expecting it because it was such a slow offseason. So I'm giving that to you. I like that. For me, the two players that came to mind for sure were one, Theo Johnson. And that's a big one for me. And I know you're really high on Theo Johnson.
I would have went with Theo Johnson, but like I've been talking about Theo Johnson but
it's not you. It's about I know you have. Yeah, like, you're high on Theo, but I think let's go with general. The general Giants fan, not just the Big Blue Banter Giants fans. We're the diehards of the diehards, the niche of the niche. I'm saying the general fan that just watches games like your median level. Theo, I think, would still be a big surprise to people if he has a really big year. And then national media-wise, he's not projected.
But then it's easily Theo Johnson. Then
I have another guy.
Easily Theo Johnson. I want to know your other guy.
My other guy that may not qualify in your mind based on what you just said is Tyrone Tracy Jr. Because I think there's an expectation going into season about Tyrone Tracy Jr. Like, he's a pretty good player. Like, maybe he'll start, but he'll maybe lose the job and he'll lose touches. And it's like, No, dude, his tape was phenomenal as a rookie. Phenomenal tape. I went back
the only
and watched
positives from the offense when it comes to people not named Malik Neighbors.
Right. And it's like he did that with probably or hopefully what will be a worse offensive line than we have this year, a much worse offensive environment with the quarterback situation as it was. And in his first year in the NFL, as the speed of the game slows down for him, he processes faster. He's more comfortable with the running back position. His role in the passing game is about to take a massive jump. We saw that throughout the training camp practice, and just we had a quarterback who didn't really utilize running backs in the right way. Now we have one who will. So I just think he could end up being a really big time player for the offense. And to me, that's a surprise standout because I'm talking like he holds the job. Scadaboo plays a little bit and he works in. They find a role for him. Singletary gets mostly phased out and it's Tyrone Tracy's show. As we've seen in the past with Dable, with Barkley, he likes to have the one back show at times. So I just think that's my pick for it. If I had to go down, it would be Theo and Tracy. Since you went Theo, I'll go Tracy.
Yeah, now Theo Johnson is easily that. I did a few fantasy podcasts where people were interviewing everybody from every a beat reporter from every team. And I went in and they were like, oh, who's going to be a surprise standout? And this was like maybe a month or so ago. I was like, oh, it's going to be Theo Johnson. Like he's not even getting drafted. I know this is take Theo Johnson if you're punting on tight end.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's go with biggest year 2 leap. So this has to be a player who was a rookie last year. And we have a lot to pick from. And it could be, if you want it to be Neighbors and you say, oh, now he takes a leap into being the best receiver in the NFL or in that tier, that's fine. Who would be your biggest year 2 leap? I think I know your pick and it's going to be the same as mine. I think.
Yeah, it's Tyler Nubin. Yeah, it's Tyler Nubin. Now, I think Malik Neighbors, everything you just said about Neighbors is correct, though. It's a lazy pick. But I do think after the season, if Malik Neighbors, knock on wood, stays healthy, Malik Neighbors is going to be in the conversation with like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. If he's already like budding there, right? He's already heading in that direction. It's like him and Brian Thomas Jr. are those like year 2 wide receivers that it's like, these guys are legit, like after one more season of 1,400 yards and possibly double-digit touchdowns and being the catalyst of the offense, I have to imagine Malik Neighbors also is in this conversation as well.
Yes, agreed. It's Nubin for me, though, for sure. Look, could be Drew Phillips. He's in the mix. Neighbors is in the mix. But you and I are very, very high on a few things when it comes to Nubin. 1, the play speed he's going to play with this year. 2, his fit in this system and how he benefits from having a pass rush like this ahead of him. And 3, just the difference in, I at least think, in what Shane Bowen will do with his safeties this year versus last year, especially having someone like Nubin who's in year 2, knows the defense now a lot better, and is just playing faster from making the jump from the college level, especially in the Big Ten. It's a really slow game to the NFL level. So it's Nubin for me. I think we're going to see a great season at him. All right, give me your bet on an over-under for Jaxson Dart starts, 5.5. Over or under.
That is such a good number. I don't know if that's a Vegas number or a Dan number. Is it a Dan number or a Vegas number?
I just made it up. Yeah.
Dude, look at you. Nice, man. So I'm going to go with over. I'm going to go with over.
You know me, I'm on under here. I'm thinking things are going to go well for the Giants this year. Russell Wilson's going to start all 17. That was my bold prediction. I should say I'm thinking that. That's a hope. It's a bold prediction for a reason. I think a lot of people interpreted that show in a different way, Nick, than maybe we intended. Like bold predictions, we're hoping to get one right. It doesn't. These are not like what we think will happen for the Giants. Like because one of yours was like Jaxson Dart will start at the end and lead them to the playoffs. Like that is a pie in the sky best case scenario. It's bold and you could see it happen. That's the point of a bold prediction. We're not just throwing dumb crap at the wall. It's stuff we could see playing out in our heads, but it has to be the best of best scenarios, the top end of your variance. So I'm still going to go with the under though. Despite that, I do think Russell Wilson will hold the job down. I believe in his fit in the system. I believe in just the Giants being a much better team than people realize.
And that's the outcome I want as well. Like I would like for Jaxson Dart to say, I would like the Giants to be competitive and Russell Wilson maybe lead them I would like for that to happen. And Russell Wilson starting 17 games, obviously that's more than likely the case. I don't think the Giants are going to be this crap team. And then Jaxson
I wouldn't say it's more than likely the case because the schedule is so hard.
I agree. But I think if the Giants if they have 4 wins and it's the end of November, Russell Wilson's getting pulled and Jaxson Dart's starting.
Right. And that goes to your point. Like it's very interesting. It's just kind of can they beat this hard schedule? Are they a good enough team now to beat out this hard schedule? And we're going to find that information out. I think the answer is yes, but I may be a little bit too optimistic on this, both in the case of the coaching And I don't think so in the case of the personnel, but definitely in the case of the coaching. And just can they overcome these humps? Because a lot of these games, Nick, if the Giants are the competitive team I believe they can be, and they have assembled from a roster standpoint, it will come down to Dable and Kafka and Bowen making the difference. And I am not sold on any of them except for Kafka at this point, as far as that goes. And we'll see what happens. Kafka, I feel good about.
I mean, even with Kafka, though, I still think he needs to prove it. Like the coaching staff, look, I'm not down on the coaching staff, but I can't sit here as somebody who covers the New York Giants and be like, yeah, the Giants are in a great spot with Brian Dable, Mike Kafka, and Shane Bowen. They have to prove a lot. And this roster has improved, I would say, dramatically over the last few seasons and added some like it wasn't that long ago, Dan, where we were like, who is a blue chip talent on the New York Giants? Where we would say shit like that.
Yeah, now we have that.
We have a bunch of blue chip talent. Now, there's still some holes for sure, but that's where the coaches need to come in and they need to put their best players in prime positions to feast, to feed, to consume the opposing offense or the opposing defense. And I'm just not certain that this coaching staff has proved that to me at any consistent rate. I mean, they haven't.
Same. I feel like Kafka actually has, personally. I think what he was able to do with Daniel Jones was unfathomably good. And especially, like, anytime you can have a top 12 or top 10 red zone offense with Daniel Jones at quarterback, that's unbelievable.
What makes me push back on that, and I do agree to a certain extent, but what makes me push back on that just a little bit is if you go back to the 2022 season, mid-season, all the way until that Colts game.
It was bad, yeah.
It was pretty bad, dude. It was pretty bad. The offense was stagnant. Everybody had film on Daniel Jones and knew the Giants' recipe was to lean on the run and then work the play action and rely on efficiency with the play action.
All the bullshit, yeah.
And then also is Daniel Jones, first read's not there, just take 6 yards with your legs and get hit. And caught on to that.
People caught on to that, and he wasn't able to adjust. But I just credit that to you can't adjust. You have Daniel Jones at quarterback. What can you do?
Again, like I'm not. This isn't me poo-pooing Kafka. It's just I need to see it more consistently. And I just think
if you're an offensive coordinator, right, or a play caller, and you watch the tape. And we'll reference this game we've referenced before, that 2022 season against the Commanders. And you watch the tape after the game, and Jack Del Rio, the opposing defensive coordinator, is doing what he did, rolling coverage so aggressively to the field side. And your quarterback is still not taking advantage of it. And you're telling him, you're looking at the tape, and you're like, dude, look at the space you have available. Figure this thing out. Like, you need to throw into this space. You need to be able to take advantage of this. What else can you do? Because at that point, as a coordinator, you're basically playing 11 on 12 or worse.
I don't think that's unique to Daniel Jones. I think that's unique to
probably a lot of bad quarterbacks. They get coverage rolled
exactly,
on.
Exactly. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen the Giants. I've seen the Giants do it on film.
Then for all those quarterbacks, Nick, what's the solution as a coordinator? You're now playing 11 on 12 or worse. Really, you're basically playing with half the field cut off as a coordinator. I just don't know, like, if I can blame him for not producing offense when it's that bad of a situation.
Yeah, you got to figure it out, and this is one of the reasons why. Yeah, one of the reasons why quarterbacks are. I mean, there's obviously ways that you can tinker and adjust and try to get creative. It's difficult because you have a very finite amount of time to game plan 1 week to the next against another opponent. And you got to try to find ways. And then the quarterback and the players in general need to execute upon that. Again, to circle back to the original point of this isn't me poo-pooing Mike Kafka. I'm just saying I want to see it at a more consistent rate, which I think is a perfectly reasonable thing to say at this point, especially discussion. 100%. But this is one of the reasons why quarterbacks are so freaking important, because you can't do that against Josh Allen. You can't do that against Joe Burrow. You can't do that against Lamar Jackson. You can't do this against Jaden Daniels. But quarterbacks who are middle of the pack, quarterbacks who do not have elite arm talent, who are a little tentative to pull the trigger, you can roll coverage towards the boundary side, especially if a lot of those offensive concepts are scripted towards the boundary side, because on film, you don't see quarterbacks who are middling really attack field side with deep concepts, especially if it's backside. Yeah. I know we don't like to, I'm not trying to kick Daniel Jones, but with Daniel Jones specifically, he did not throw those deep out routes towards the field side. He didn't really even do that too frequently in the intermediate to deep range, unless it was on the vertical plane towards the boundary side. And that,
we can count on our hands how many backside dig throws we saw.
Yeah. I mean, backside dig is one thing, but I'm talking about even outside the numbers.
Yeah. Outside the numbers, non-existent as well.
Yeah. So opposing defenses can be like, look, we can probably not really cover that area. We'll have a curl flat defender over there.
And that's it. Right.
And that's it. Right. And we'll have a safety who's middle of the field, or maybe
might have an eye on it, but not worried about it.
Yeah. But there's a lot of space to take advantage of. Right. And that's why back in the day, we used to say, like, hey, just throw it over there. Just make them respect it. Right. Yeah,
He's attempted a few times to make them respected. There were times I remember the Colts game where he kind of tried to throw it. And it was like a hospital ball, and it got like destroyed on that, and it got the receiver destroyed. Like it was a risk for him to throw it too. I feel like because he got these receivers in bad positions. But look, it's a great football argument, Nick, because I would posit and I would argue that if you're an offensive coordinator and you're that hamstrung by your quarterback, you have no way to succeed in the NFL unless you have an elite offensive line and elite run game. The Giants never had that in 2022. Their O-line run blocking wise was a lot of ways smoke and mirrors. And I thought that was all Kafka, right? I thought Kafka designed really good run calls. So I kind of credit him for almost everything on offense. I think he did almost everything on offense in 2022, to be quite frank.
Him and Saquon. I mean,
and that goes
to the Saquon conversation. It's like I saw today on Twitter a lot of people talking about.
I don't want to get into that.
Saquon Barkley is like the best player, and it's like I think Saquon Barkley is an elite talent. But again, like to be the best player at running back, like there are so many variables that go into your success, right?
Yeah.
And it's the offensive line in Philadelphia really propelled Saquon Barkley to be the best version of Saquon Barkley, which is an elite Hall of Fame type of player. But with the New York Giants, he didn't have that. And it's also because the defense was really able to scheme against him. Like you're not playing too high against the New York Giants with Saquon Barkley there. There's another guy in the box at the offense. Not only was the offensive line,
you're not even putting a guy on the field side of the general.
No, of course, but not only is the offensive line less than the Philadelphia Eagles, but you're facing more guys in the box with a lesser offensive line. That's because you don't have AJ Brown and Devonta Smith nor a quarterback who's going to attack downfield. Right. So like all of this is it's all related, right? When it comes to football, it's one of the things I love about football. Everything's related. The coverages are related to what you're doing up front, right? Like everything is interchangeable and related when it comes to how to attack offense, how to attack defense. And if you take some away from one area, it might leave another area of your defense vulnerable or your offense vulnerable. And you need to account for that as a coordinator. But overall, like, I don't want to come off like I'm crapping on Kafka. I just want to see more consistency.
And you're not coming off at that at all.
Because this is, and I do believe in Kafka as well. But this is a guy who had his play calling revoked from him. If he was doing an excellent job, and I think there were some personalities and some ego thing.
That's a Dave Cable thing.
Yeah, of course. But if he was doing an excellent job, I don't think that necessarily would have happened. So I just want to see it again.
It wouldn't have. I just don't think an excellent job was possible with the quarterback situation that was available to him. That's my personal opinion. He kind of was doing an excellent job, though, for a little while with that quarterback situation, which to me kind of shows the ceiling. But I get it. And this is the best part about this. These are my favorite discussions of the podcast. We just went on a tangent, but it's like all football stuff. It's all scheme. It's all rolling, boundary coverage, field side coverage, how you're using your safeties, the chess game. That's why I originally got addicted to this football and became such a diehard as a kid was the chess match. And I know I'm going to reference it again for all those of you who are like us and diehards. Nick and I have played a few games. We need to get a couple more in my lifetime. I hope more than a couple, but there's a game called Stratomatic, which you should play. It's a board game where you can actually move the pieces, and you have 11 defenders, and you can move them into the box. You can move them out of the box into coverage. You can move them to A gap, and you move them around. And it just gives you an idea of what NFL defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators are facing on a weekly basis. How are these chess pieces moving? And if you're the quarterback, you need to be able to understand, predict, and adjust to how these pieces are moving if you want to ever have success. When you're not a quarterback who does that, it's very easy for people like Nick and I to see this is no chance. There's no way. That's why we were able to kind of diagnose why we were going to fail in the past, because we didn't have someone who can figure that stuff out. If you can't figure out how the pieces on the board are moving, you have no chance. One final thing I will say to that Barkley argument is we have stats to back up the point. And that stat is last year, the Eagles were number 1 in the NFL by far in yards created before contact. So that means before Barkley was ever touched, his offensive line created the most yards in the NFL. During his career with the Giants, Barkley was never above 28th in yards created before contact. How does that not scream that the offensive line not creates running backs, but propels running backs, and you are dependent on it? It's the only position in the NFL that's most dependent on its counterpart, in my opinion.
It's not just the offensive line, though, too. It's also, again, it's the scheme. It's what the offense
having those receivers on the outside. Yes.
It's what the quarterback is willing to pull the trigger on. It's so many different things. That's why football's so amazing and beautiful.
Yep. Completely agree. All right. Let's do another one. Most unheralded player on tape. And we can actually so we can find a way to make this less subjective and more tangible, based on tangible results. So what I'll try to do, if I remember to do this, Nick, is total up all of our most unheralded players on film each week. So each week we do film breakdowns. We'll do most heralded players. Whoever has the most is the winner of this award, and we'll decide if we predicted this correct. So do you have who will be the most unheralded player on tape?
I think I have two. I want to do offense and defense, if that's cool. All right. Now,
yes,
you want me just to name one and you go with the other one, or what? What's up?
Let's do, we should do both, because you're right, because we're going to have one on offense and defense every week. So we should do both. Right. Yes.
All right. So my offensive is Greg Van Roten, I think.
Ooh.
And it's really just because the Giants signed this 35-year-old dude at the end of July who wanted to be close to Long Island because that's where he's from. And he came in and he made the offensive line slightly more tolerable last year. And he wasn't the worst offensive lineman on the offensive line, nor was he even that much worse than a player that the Giants gave a pretty sizable contract to in John Runyon. And I think there's another offensive lineman, I'm not gonna, like, you might go with him, who easily fits into this. And I think that he is one of the more underrated offensive linemen in the National Football League. And he's on the Giants. And the only reason why I say that, and I'll just say his name right now, Jermaine Illuminor. The reason why I say that is because, okay, I didn't want to step on your toes there, but I hear like national people talk about the Giants, and then they come like, yeah, their offensive line, it's really a problem. It's like, I don't think the offensive line is great, but they'll start by saying like, yeah, Jermaine Illuminor, this is just some guy they signed. Like, I'm like, Jermaine Illuminor is like one of the better offensive linemen that I've watched on tape for the Giants. Now, it's not a high bar to set.
I was going to say that's not the highest bar.
That's not the highest bar, but this guy was brought in to play inside, and then he played right tackle, and then he kicked over and played left tackle, and he was never really he was never exposed or anything. I felt like he was a above average player basically all last season. So like, I don't think he is the example that all these national people use to like say the Giants offensive line sucks. He's not the right example there. I think he plays well above what other people's expectations are who do not watch the Giants on all 22.
And that's my prediction. It'll be Jermaine Illuminor. I think it's going to be one of those two players, though.
He's playing for a contract too, baby. Oof.
Yeah, and Van Roten, I think, is just a veteran at this point, but he made it our list a lot last year, Van Roten. Quick thing before we get into our defensive picks there. Just a quick breaking news, somewhat breaking news. It's Wednesday, September 3rd, 1:07. So I just want to throw this in. Both Andrew Thomas and Theo Johnson are practicing today. To what extent, we don't know, but they're suited up. And I think, the idea on both is let's see how they respond to their first day of practice this week. Thursday, tomorrow, will be the telling day. I think if Thomas is back out there practicing with the first team, really good sign. If he's not, and there's a setback, really bad sign.
This is an interesting conversation. The Theo Johnson thing, right? Him not practicing since like mid-August or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Is that one of the reasons why the Giants retained Daniel Bellinger? Because I was thinking about this, and I'm like,
because he can do everything as a tight end.
Well, you just don't really you don't want to go into the season with Chris Manhertz and Thomas Fedone as your tight ends, right? Like you want to make sure you have that veteran who can execute a lot of different things. And I don't know if the Giants were confident in Theo Johnson's health. Now, I'm happy about it because I want Daniel Bellinger on this roster, and I believe in Daniel Bellinger's skill set, as we've been clear on this podcast. But we also know the Giants wanted to be mindful of the cap, and there were escalators for Daniel Bellinger, and there was also Graham Gano and Raheem Nunez-Roches. Both those guys were retained. So all the financial decisions the Giants could have made at cuts, they didn't make. They kept all their guys, even though they're tight up against the cap. And I was happy with it, but I'm also sitting here like, I wonder if one of the reasons why they did this with a guy who's entering a contract here who I feel underutilized is they were a little concerned about Theo Johnson's health, since we don't know what the hell's going on there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hope you're not onto something. That's my response to that, because I hope he's not more hurt than we feel, or I guess than we're guessing at this point. But it is a guessing game with both those players. We'll have to see how they respond. I mean, I'm still hopeful both can play in week one, honestly, and they both have huge roles projected in this offense, Andrew Thomas and Theo Johnson. So it'd be pretty devastating if we enter week one without them. And I'll say this, if Andrew Thomas doesn't play, I may have to take back my prediction on if the Giants will upset the Commanders. It's that dire for me. I do not trust James Hudson at all out there in a real NFL regular. Like in the preseason, he was fine, but this is real deal stuff. And yeah, maybe they can scheme around it, but then they're wasting and allocating resources to protecting the passer. They shouldn't have to, because when it's Thomas, it's just island ball the whole time. He's just on an island and he's doing a great job.
Yeah, it's that's going to be tough. That is, and it's not like the Commanders have this massive pass rusher,
No.
or the Cowboys dunk. But
Yep.
yeah, it's still an issue.
And who do you think is going to win the most unheralded player on film on the defensive side of the ball this season? I have a strong pick that I'm standing by.
Yeah, this one's easy for me. It's Brian Burns.
Okay.
And I know everyone's like, "Well, he's heralded. What are you talking about?" It's like, no, man. Brian Burns on tape last year on a crappy team that had 3 wins at the end of the season was running around and hitting people well across the field, even though he was playing through an injury. I think he sets such an example for all the young players to emulate. I have a lot of respect for Brian Burns as a leader on this football team. And I mean, look, Dan and I were massive supporters of that trade. And if I mean, a lot of people were like, nah, this is dumb. Why would you do this? It's like, dude, it's like a 25, 26-year-old pass rusher. I will give him this contract because those contracts are going to be crazy in a year. Look at what like Micah just got paid. Obviously, it's Micah, but still, you understand how this market goes. I just love how Brian Burns never takes a play off. And for me, even though he is heralded, I still believe he is unheralded.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. For me, it's Roy Robertson Harris. I think
I love it.
Yeah, look, I like what I saw in the preseason. I like what he can offer the Giants within this context of what's around him on the defensive line. And I think we're going to get to the season and be like a little bit pleasantly surprised with what he offers as a run defender because we're not expecting all that much on that front. But I think we're going to look at the tape and be like, that was a good play by him. He did a good job there. He maintained his gap. Like, I just feel like we're going to be happy with what he puts on tape this year.
If he can give us 70% of what Ashawn Robinson gave us down the stretch of the 2023 season, then I'm happy. Yeah.
How about this one? Tape tells the story player of the year. So this is one where it's like the national media or Giants fans who don't watch the tape or don't listen to our podcast, shout out all the ones who don't, and you should listen to our show. By the way, hit the like button right now. Leave a comment. We need your help. We need your support. Hit the like button and comment on all episodes. But this is that player that you and I are, and it could be go either way. I'm going to let you do it, not just saying offense or defense. I'm going to say it could be a player that they think is good based on the stats, but we're like, the tape is not as good, or the opposite.
Yeah. So last year, this would have been a player like Tyler Nubin.
Yes.
So I think it's going to be, I'm going to go with Paulson Adebo. And the reason why I'm going with Paulson Adebo,
positive or negative fashion?
From a positive fashion.
Okay.
I think Paulson Adebo will give up some catches. He's going to be going up against like CeeDee Lamb. There's going to be touchdowns. And I think those really stand out. But when you still watch the tape and why maybe CeeDee Lamb wasn't targeted on this play, or possibly why this player was held to this stat line, even though he's an elite player, and then somebody else feasted. It's because Tay Banks or Cordell Flott was being picked on and Paulson Adebo was handling his business. So again, he's a cornerback. He's going to have his losses, but I think we're going to look at that contract and hopefully be like, I understand why the Giants did. I mean, I'm already at that point where, and it's more of a desperation thing for me than I believe in Paulson Adebo. But I like, if the Giants didn't have Paulson Adebo this March, what are we looking at from a cornerback perspective?
Yeah,
you're right. It's bleak. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Paulson Adebo, and I hope I'm right here, being a little bit optimistic. But I know he's going to take his lumps, but hopefully he holds his own and is a cornerback one for us.
That's a good call, I think, for the tape tells the story player. I'm going to go with Javon Holland. I'm not so sure the stats will look great for him. Maybe he doesn't have the interceptions he had early in his career, but I think he's going to do the dirty work, and it's very important work for this defense. Both, just maintaining more integrity as a run defender at the third level, taking better angles to the football. That's something that I think has really plagued the Giants at safety for a long, long time. They've had stretches where it's been fixed, but this, I think it's better. It will be better than it's ever been with these two at safety if they can stay healthy.
I really hope so for Javon Holland. We haven't really spoken a lot about Javon Holland.
Yeah.
I think it's a bigger step down than a lot of Giant fans want to admit from Xavier McKinney to a player like Javon Holland. It's still an upgrade over Jason Pinnock. But watching his like last year's tape in Miami, like he took some bad angles, Dan. Like he wasn't like he needs to rectify that. And I want to see a little bit more from him. He's still a young player. So I think it can certainly happen, of course.
Okay, let's get to some fun ones now. Start with this one, and these are from the audience. We said, give us your superlatives and we'll answer them. What is more likely, Dan triple putting a birdie opportunity, or Brian Dable producing a proud dad meme moment with Jaxson Dart this year?
Oh, what do you think? This is for you, buddy. What is more likely, Dan triple putting a birdie opportunity, or Brian? Well, I think Brian Dable's certainly. I don't really know. Did you triple putt a birdie opportunity? Like you could have done that, right? And you didn't. You nailed it. You said you put it like 6 feet away. See, I do listen, and you just knocked it down.
That was on my PR personal best record 84 round earlier this golf season. At where was that? It was at that really fun, great course that's so far away. What's it called? Architects. Early at Architects, I did triple putt a birdie opportunity. It was the only one of the year. I was on in 3 on a par 5, and I took a 6 with a 3 putt. But A, that was when I sucked at putting. B, that was before I went to left-hand low. And C, the biggest jump in my game this year, the reason I've been able to drop my handicap 3 strokes is because of the putting. I fixed and figured out putting with A, an aim putting technique, and B, going left-hand low, which for me has made all the difference. It feels much more natural. So I think it's very unlikely at this point. I shouldn't say that and jinx myself, but I don't think I'll 3-putt another birdie up. So I'm going to go with Brian Dable here. And we already saw that quote from Connor Hughes where like, I don't know if you saw that. People thought it was a meme. Like I think Wes Steinberg, like basically like trolled him.
So I saw it from Wes first, and I was like, the troll account, Wes Steinberg doing his thing. And then I read the comments, and I saw people being like, Connor Hughes, like, why are they tagging Connor? So I went to Connor's, and I saw Connor actually tweet the same exact thing, and Wes
he said it was real. Connor, yeah, he said it. So this dude loves Jaxson Dart, Brian Dable. So I think that's
obvious. Right. I can say that for a fact. I was there at training camp, and I know for a fact, like you see, anytime Jaxson Dart makes a throw or does something, like Dable is hyped, dude.
Yeah. I love him. He's so happy to finally get his own quarterback in here and someone with actual talent. All right. What occurs first? Nick chows down a Crave case from White Castle. Oof, a full case. Or Dan breaks 70 on an 18-hole golf course.
Well, I will never chow down a Crave case at White Castle. So if Dan actually gets really, really good at golf, then and judging by his interests, you put a lot of time. You put a lot of time into something, you get better, then I'm going to give Dan. I don't know if handicaps come into this. I don't know anything about that kind of stuff, but I am not ever going to eat a White Castle Crave case. That sounds horribly disgusting.
I'll be happy just to ever break 80 in my life, despite the amount of time I put in. Because there's a thing, Nick. To get really good at golf, in my opinion, you have to do 2 things. You first have to take lessons, which I've never done. I created my own swing, taught myself, mostly via YouTube and like Instagram. And there's too many minds at play, too many different instructors in my head. 2, you then have to take what your golf instructor teaches you after your lessons. These are going to be worth that, you're going to pay thousands of dollars over time for this. And then with that, you have to practice, which I also don't do a good job of. You have to practice drills. You have to do these, pedantic drills that you have to really stay on top of, Nick. I'm never really going to do that. So I'm just going to be this self-taught golfer, I think. Eventually I might get lessons, but my best case is breaking 80 in my opinion. So no, neither is going to happen. Okay.
First talking about practice.
Exactly. And I'm not willing to do the practice I need to do. Occasionally I go to the range, not enough, and it's bad range. Like I have terrible range sessions. I'm just whacking balls out there. I try to I don't want to talk about this anymore. People don't want to hear it. Let's go to the first crash out of the 2025 season.
If the Giants lose against Washington, we're probably going to see a slight crash out depending on how it happens.
Depending on how it happens, yeah.
Yeah, depending on how it happens. So that I would go with that, but I want to be more specific than that. There's going to be some game, I think, that Russell Wilson does something dumb and Dan's going to crash out. And Jay's like, there's Jaxson Dart on the bench. And he's going to be upset. So I'll go with something like that.
I agree. It's going to be Russell Wilson related. It could come as early as week 2. That's a winnable game. So we'll see what happens there. All right. How many weeks this year will our O-line play so good on tape that the Big Blue Boys, that's you and I, Nick, get to a 3.0 or higher?
I don't know, man. That's aggressive. That's an aggressive one. So I hope more often than not, but I expect it saying that Andrew Thomas is there. I think I expect the offensive line to be mildly better than it was last year. Not enough for me to surpass 3 on a consistent level. So that's kind of where I'm at with this offense.
Like the same O-line as last year.
Yeah.
But just injured, potentially.
And I just don't have the confidence that like John Michael Schmitz is going to really come into his own. I don't have the confidence that John Runyon is going to play substantially better than what we saw last year. So it really depends on if Andrew Thomas is there. Of course, if he's not, it could be, again, look pretty rough. But I like Jermaine Luminoy. I think Greg Van Roten's fine. And then James Hudson, he could be a liability over an extended period of time.
Yeah. I think for me, to answer this question, Nick, it would mean that the offensive line has to be dominant in both the pass game and the run game to get this to qualify. Last year, there were times where the O-line was borderline dominant. I don't want to say dominant, but borderline very good.
Yeah.
Never dominant, but borderline very good in the pass game and pass protection. A lot of games, Cincinnati, Dallas early in the season, Washington, but they were never dominant in the run game. I don't think we'll have any games this year where they're dominant in the run game and the pass game, which sucks because if you're like asking Eagles fan this or an Eagles podcast this, they probably can come up with like 10, 11, 12 games in the schedule where their O-line could absolutely dominate on both ends, the pass game and the run game. So it's just very interesting.
The Giants.
Yeah, hopefully not. All right.
Hopefully.
By what week will this fan base be so delusional that we'll be thinking Super Bowl?
Whew. If the Giants start 0-2, they might be. Yeah, I think. If the Giants beat Washington,
you mean 2-0? You mean 2-0?
Oh, did I say 0-2? Yeah, see how conditioned I am. See how conditioned Nick Filato is right there. That I just did that and didn't. The losing is just in. Oh gosh, we need to dispense with this, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, so I think if the Giants start 2-0, then you'll really start to hear some people be like, who's saying it? Who's saying it? Especially if the pass rush has like 9 sacks through 2 weeks or something.
If they're 2-0 and they dominate the Cowboys, like it's a 2-3 score win, it happens then. Or if it's 2 close wins, but then they somehow upset the Chiefs at home to go 3-0, that's it. We're talking Super Bowl immediately. It's like, why can't we? We beat the Chiefs. They're a Super Bowl contender. Why can't we do it? That's exactly how it goes. And the Redskins made the Commanders made the NFC Championship game. Why can't it be them? So it's 2 wins against those types of teams. So yeah, it's right after that. If they go 3-0, it's on, baby. We're thinking Soupy. All right. Superlative, next question. Over under, how many times does Daniel Jones get mentioned in this coming season? The over under is 20.
Oh, it's going to be over. Easy.
It's got to be over. We just mentioned him twice today, but I think one episode is a max. Like you can get to 2 max per episode.
Gotcha. I still think it's probably going to be over.
Watching, I don't care.
And again, it's not like I feel like a lot of people, and look, are Dan and I negative about it sometimes?
Speak on this, Nick.
Yeah, but like people will be like, oh my God, stop talking about it. It's like Dan and I spent 6 years watching the only quarterback who was a starting quarterback for the New York Giants was Daniel Jones. Like, it's not us kicking him while he's down. This is the dumb thing. Like, this is our frame of reference when we are discussing the most important position in the freaking sport that Dan and I cover. I don't think this is this complicated. How many hours Dan and I have put in to watching Daniel Jones? We have a lot to discuss when it comes to that quarterback. And that doesn't mean that we're just kidding while he's down, and he's not down. He's starting quarterback right now in the National Football League. I just think this is a ridiculous narrative that I see in the comments sometimes that I think is a lukewarm, insipid freaking narrative. I think we should just get rid of it. All right. Because again, if Dan and I are like, yeah, he's so blah, blah, and we're like going on trashing him. Yes, I get that. But that's not what Dan and I are doing. We don't do that. We're speaking facts based on what we've seen. We are speaking on our interpretations of the tape of this quarterback. That's what we are doing. And then we are applying it to further conversations that pertain to the Giants going forward.
Yeah. Like if we're pertaining it to what's to come, we're comparing what we have now to what we had in the past, which is really important because if you're thinking about why can this team take a step forward or backwards if it was the other way, it's because this was happening before and it's now not happening now, or it wasn't happening before and it's now happening now. And if you want to even speak to a next level of that, Nick, if we start to see some outside the number passes in those hole shots this year from Ross or Dart, and we compare Jones and we bring him up, it's because you literally, Nick, have done the research and have the stats to back it up. In 2022, no quarterback attempted fewer passes, 10-plus yard air yards outside the numbers. No quarterback threw less air yards. I mean, come on. Wake the F up with this thing. I can't go back into this right now because it's just going to make me mad. It's all speaking based on film analysis, stats, facts, the raw stats, the advanced stats. Everything tells one story here.
I love how you turn the same color as your hat, by the way.
I get so mad when people, when I think about, I'm so happy you did what you did because those comments piss me the F off and they're stupid. It's not like we're sitting here like, because I'm sure there's plenty of podcasts that don't get into the weeds with them. They're just like, Daniel Jones sucked. You can't throw a ball. You can't do this. He sucks. It's like, no, we're taking it to the next level. We're using film to back up this. We're using data to back this up. We're using advanced stats, raw stats, everything you could possibly ask. We're using here.
Yeah. And again, I have nothing.
There's not much more we can do.
Of course, I have nothing against the kid. I want him to be successful in Indianapolis. I just don't like, I just know, I know his, my point is, this isn't like Schadenfreude. I'm not taking anything against this quarterback. I have nothing against him. I thought he was a great kid. I thought he was great for the community, all that kind of stuff. It's just I know his limitations because I've seen it for 6 freaking seasons, guys. All right, like come on.
We can end it there, but we will mention him a bunch, over 20 for sure. I'm sure, because we're comparing to what we had to what we have now. And we mention Barkley sometimes. Again, we're comparing Tracy and what we have now. We're not spending it running back. We mention Eric Flowers sometimes. We mention a lot of players that we just mentioned McKinney earlier. And speaking to Javon Holland, we're going to mention players that we used to have. That's how things are going to go. All right, let's go on. And by the way, I know the person who left that is on our side of that. He just thinks it's funny. And I think it's funny too. All right. Over under how many weeks before. This is a funny one. I love this one because this is spoken exactly how I think I would say it. This is from Uncle Jesse. Over under how many weeks before Slayton has a breakout game? And Dan says, I quote, "This is what we've always had with Slayton, and he's been held back because of the quarterback position." I know. Some fans hate when I bring him up, but the evidence is on tape, Nick. Look at how Russell can go quickly through his reads, and he knows Slayton has his man beat. So what does he do, Nick? He throws an absolute dime on the outside shoulder with anticipation, and quite honestly, that's something. I think he's right about this. Over under how many weeks, though, before we get that play from Slayton? 2. I think he'll do it against the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm going to say 2 as well. And how apropos that this was the next one. That
I know.
And I think I hope Dan could be a little bit more descriptive and imaginative than just saying that's something. So
yeah, no, I think something he got cut off or something. That's the last thing I saw here was that something. And I think I cut off the message.
I probably said that something too.
That is funny because that's exactly how I might describe it. And I don't feel bad at all about that. All right, let's see. Let's do some bad. We'll end with this one. He's given us a twist. I forgot the list. I didn't put the name in here. Bad stat production. Who is the team leader in fumbles lost?
Okay. Team leader in fumbles lost. So somebody who's going to have a lot of opportunity to hold the football. I'm going to say probably, I think it's going to be Tyrone Tracy Jr.
I'm unfortunately going to say Tyrone Tracy Jr.
Or actually, you know what? It might be Russ, though, too, depending on how long he starts.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. I'm still going to go, unfortunately, with Tracy.
I'm going Russ because I think Tyrone Tracy. If Tyrone Tracy Jr. loses more than 4 fumbles, that's a massive.
He might not play. Yeah, you know what? Russ is probably the safe play.
Yeah,
I'm changing my bet to Russ. Team leader in drop passes.
Probably Malik Neighbors.
It's 100% Malik Neighbors. And this just shows how stupid of a stat drop passes are. And I've gone on my soapbox about how dumb and overrated drop passes are with fans already. And I'll just throw my main stat that I will always throw out there. When Tyreek Hill led the NFL in receiving yards by a mile a couple years ago, he also led the NFL in drop passes. Neighbors are going to have 100 more 40, 50 more targets than anyone. Of course, he's going to lead in drop passes. Drop passes are not everything. They're not everything. All right. Team leader in holding penalties.
Geez, hopefully it's not James Hudson. You know what I'm saying?
It will be if he plays.
Yeah, exactly. If Andrew Thomas is out for an extended period of time, it's easily James Hudson. But
he won't be.
But he won't be. So I am going to go with, I think, Jermaine Illuminor, maybe.
That's probably the safe call. It's always an outside guy. Yeah, Jermaine Illuminor. It's not going to be an interior offensive lineman, I don't think.
And that's not to say there's anything wrong with Jermaine Illuminor. I think it would be like 3 or 4 holding. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, if James Hudson that's an easy smash.
Team leader in missed tackles.
Probably Michael McFadden.
It's definitely going to be McFadden, I think, and that's not a knock on him either. But it's sort of
it's something he needs to clean up. I felt like he was better in 2024 than he was in 2023 on tape when it came to that. Even though I think the advanced analytics on that only like somewhat substantiate that. Like he still was really bad in missed tackle rate last year as well. Some of the missed tackles I remember going through the tape with you, and we were like, like it's a missed tackle, but like. I don't know. It wasn't as egregious. I felt like he cleaned it up from a tape perspective, but he needs to get better with that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's something the coaches are probably hammering as well. All right. Team leader in pass interference calls.
It's probably going to be either Paulson Adebo or Tay. I don't really know who's starting with those other two. But if Tay Banks starts, is it going to be Tay?
I think it'll be Adebo, even if Tay Banks
Adebo's a grabber. He's a big grabber.
Big grabber. We're going to get a lot of PIs there that are going to make us angry. Bonus question. Who will be responsible for the most frustrating low-light play of the season? To give you an idea of some low-lights in the past, it was Evan Ingram's drop against the Eagles when we almost beat them against, and maybe you could even throw in Daniel Jones's long run that he tripped up on or whatever. Those are the types of like low-light plays, I would say.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. Low light plays.
Most
Now,
frustrating.
those are like skilled position low light plays. What about like
Yeah.
offensive line low light plays? Because you have like
Could
Eric
be.
Flowers and Evan Neal.
Yeah.
Those were players.
Yeah.
I think it might be John Michael Schmitz, especially for people like us who watch the tape and we
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
the all 22
Good call. That's a good call.
but if it's more so a skilled position type of player, I would like to think it's none of them. I'd like to think it's none of them. There's one player I kind of want to talk about, but I want you to go first. On your low light.
Maybe JMS or Wandale Robinson.
Wandale came to my mind. So there was a few other ones in here that I wanted to just acknowledge before we get into our record. Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. Freaking same wavelength right here. Does Jalen Hyde have a touchdown catch this year, dude?
Yes, for me.
Okay, so yes.
Strong yes.
Strong yes. I like that.
Strong
Yes.
yes.
I think that he could. I do. But dude, he doesn't have a touchdown catch in the regular season yet.
In his career, yeah.
He has like 2 preseason ones.
Yeah. He should have had
his usage
against Arizona.
His usage is,
don't you think?
Yeah,
He was open
probably.
to like 4 to 6 steps on that play.
If he would have been able to outrun the corner. The
No,
corner had
all
outside
hung up there.
Yeah.
We watched that play.
Oh no, it hung up. It wasn't a perfect throw. It was something though. It was at least completed.
It was
But
good.
yeah,
It was one of his better ones, but that
the
he
safety
had steps. He had steps
Yeah.
on that play.
It was quarters, and the safety bit down on the Darren Waller cross, leaving outside leveraged Marco Wilson against Jalen Hyde on a deep post. I wish we could run that a little bit more against these split field coverages.
Sure.
But,
Maybe we will with Russ.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to our final record predictions. We touched on that in the SEO. You had to watch an hour of. Hopefully you enjoyed the superlatives. I thought it was really fun. I thought we had an amazing discussion in the middle there on boundary coverage versus field side coverage, backside versus front side plays for quarterbacks. But now let's get to it. What some people have been waiting for. The final record prediction by Nick and Dan. So I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah. So my record prediction right here for the New York Football Giants, I want to preface it by saying the Giants are going to be I think a more respectable football team. That teams aren't going to be so eager to play as they have been for such a long time. But with that said, the schedule is very tough, and I have the New York Giants going 6-11 right now.
Okay,
so 6 wins. I think this dude, they could start with a bang, and these are 2 winnable games on the road against NFC East teams. But the Giants they have not been successful in the Brian Daboll era winning in their division. They have not beat the Dallas Cowboys yet. They never beat the Philadelphia Eagles when they're at full strength. The Commanders, they used to beat up on, but now they have Jaden Daniels. That's very difficult, and I think they're a much better coach team with Dan Quinn there in tow. So you need to win in your division, and you're playing the NFC North and the AFC West, dude. That's tough. That's tough stuff, and you didn't receive any teams that were really lollipops or just from the divisions that you aren't playing, other than the Saints. And the Patriots aren't a lollipop, and then the 49ers are the other team, and that's not really a great team to be playing right now. They just had a down year last year. So I'm going to go with 6.
Okay. I mean, that's right along the lines of what most beat reporters, I think, have predicted. I think Bobby Skinner and the Giants Nation show, shout them out, did like all the predictions together, and it was like most of them were 6-11. I think one was 7 wins, and there were a few that were lower. I'll do this my own way, game by game, and we'll see what number we come to. I don't actually know what I'll come to yet, Nick. So let's do it like this. I think they're going to upset the Commanders in week 1 as long as Andrew Thomas plays, and right now I think he will. I think they're going to beat the Cowboys in week 2, 2-0. Lose to the Chiefs, 2-1. Lose to the Chargers at home, 2-2. I just think Harbaugh in year 2, the culture is really established, and he's going to outcoach Daboll in that one, and we will lose due to the coaching. Lose to the Chiefs in week 3 at home. That's 2-3. Or no, sorry, we did that. Sorry. Beat the Saints in week 5 in New Orleans. That's 3-2. Lose to the Eagles at home. I want to predict that as a win on a Thursday night game, like just maybe we can finally do it type of thing. But no, I just think Fangio is going to give us so many problems.
I'm scared of Fangio, and I'll say this too. I hate that the Giants are playing New Orleans in New Orleans, because the Giants are a better football team than the Saints. But you have a Thursday night game right after that against a division rival.
For sure.
And then you go to Denver the next week, and then you go back to then you go back and play Philadelphia in Philadelphia the week after that. I don't love that from a scheduling standpoint. I think that Saints game could be a trap game.
Yeah. So you're definitely right about that. So I'm at 3-3. Then in Denver, this is an interesting one. I think the Giants are, if they're the team I think they can be, a more competitive team, they can give the Denver Broncos a serious run for the money. I just hate betting against Denver in Denver. And I do really appreciate their defense and what Sean Payton's able to scheme up for Bo Nix. So fortunately, they lose that one 3-4. They lose in Philadelphia to go to 3-5. Big game against the Niners at home then after that. Niners are not the team they were. I do think they're going to bounce back this year, though. I think I'm going to give the Giants a loss on that one to go to 3-6. I think the Giants will beat the Bears in Chicago, despite it being in Chicago, 4-6. Then the Packers at home. That's a big one for them. I think they'll win that game. They beat them last time at home. I think they'll win that game 5-6. Lose to the Lions in Detroit. Do they beat the Patriots? A Monday night game. And I kind of like the Patriots this year. You know what? I'm taking it back, actually, Nick. I'm going back here. So I have them at 5-6. I'm actually going to go to 4-7 with a loss against the Packers and a win against the Patriots to get to 5-7. Commanders at home. Do they sweep the Commanders? Yes, they do, I think. 6-7. Vikings. We're home against the Vikings. I don't think that's going to be a good game. I just think Brian Flores gives us too many problems. 6-8. Beat the Raiders to go to 7-8 in Raiderville. That's a little shout out to Ron Schneier, my dad, if he's listening to this podcast. Whenever the Giants, when I was a kid, were playing a road game, he just wouldn't call it by where it was or the stadium. He would just call it Ville. So it'd be like Raiderville. Or
he never diversified it at all. No. It was always Ville.
Cardinalville, Raiderville. Like, we just throw a Ville.
There's so many other names that you could just throw on the end of that. Ville we're using. Okay, I like it.
And then at home. So now where are we at on this? I think we're at 7.
You're 7.
No,
you're 7-9. 7-9. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Are we? We're 7-9. Okay, 7-9 going into that Cowboys game at home, and I think the Giants will win that game and bring that momentum over. For the it's unfortunately it becomes like a moral victory, but Mara loves those, and I think we finish at 8-9. So I'm going 8-9.
I'm glad that you're 2 games over me, and I can easily see that happen. And I'll look like with the record predictions, it's like, what are the percentages that these things will come true? Because I can see a reality where the Giants go to the playoffs. Like, I can see that there's 7 playoffs. I can see the Giants getting hot. A lot of these teams right now, after week 2, we're going to think completely different of these teams. Like the NFL, it's a week by week change. I have 6-11, but I can easily see the Giants. Well, not easily. I could see a path to where the Giants go to the playoffs and are a more respectable team than that record. I can also see a path where the Giants only win 4 games too. I think I see them going to the playoffs more so than them only winning 4 games, despite their schedule being so tight. But again, 6-11, and I think it's the Giants are a respectable team, losing some close games. I want to see the coaching staff prove that they can really get this job done with this unit. But at the end of the day, I think teams will not want to play the New York Giants, mostly because of their pass rush.
And ultimately, I'm very optimistic. I think I'm probably the highest record prediction of any. I could be burned by some of these games. I have them sweeping the Commanders, which is definitely not easy to do. I have them beating teams. Patriots, they can beat, I think. The Raiders, they can beat. I have them beating. I also have so there's the only interesting thing about my prediction, Nick, is they're starting 3-6 in my prediction. Will they have the gusto to stick with Russ? Because I think if they do go to Dart, it becomes more open-ended. It could go great and they could win more games, but it's not as guaranteed. So I don't know. I feel confident. I felt good about this feeling of this team the entire time. I really stand by some of my takes, which are we're going to see a massive difference moving on from Jones to any competent quarterback. And I do believe Russ is still a somewhat competent quarterback. So that's my record prediction. That's Nick's record prediction. Thank you so much for listening to Big Blue Banter. Keep it locked and loaded. Hit the download button. Make sure you always do that if you're listening, and leave a rating and review if you haven't already. Boost us up those charts. Leave a comment in the YouTube pages. Leave a like in the YouTube pages. Hype the video. That's a new thing I like. Other than that, have a great rest of your week. We're going to talk to you soon. The next podcast you'll hear is going to be a preview of Giants versus Commanders. We're going to have a special guest on to give us the lowdown on the Commanders. And we're bringing back preview pods because now the games matter again. And we'll do a small bonus in that episode recap of our thoughts on the first game of the NFL season, which is 2 NFC East opponents, the Eagles and the Cowboys. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.